Today we are going to solve Cambridge Lower Secondary Checkpoint, April 2018, paper 2. Question number 1. Pierre plays a sport called rugby. To keep fit, he eats a special diet and exercises often. To improve his strength, Pierre eats lots of chicken. Name the main nutrient present in chicken. The main nutrient present in chicken is protein. Explain how this nutrient improves Pierre's strength. The protein is important for what? It's important to strengthen the muscles, since the muscles are made of proteins. The answer is it strengthens the muscles. In between brackets, you can write muscle is made of protein. To prepare for a game of rugby, Pierre eats lots of starchy foods such as pasta. Explain why it's important for Pierre to eat starchy food before a strenuous game of rugby. So the answer is because starchy food contains carbohydrate that provides the body with energy. Tick the boxes next to the correct sentences about gases. Gases can flow to fill a container. Yes, they fill the container. They take the shape of the container. Gases only form at a temperature above 100. Wrong. The particles in a gas are arranged randomly. Correct. The particles in a gas are close together. Wrong. The particles in a gas can only vibrate. Wrong. So these are the two correct statements. A gas changed into a liquid during condensation. Describe what happens to the particles in a substance during condensation. Here we have a gas. The gas changed into a liquid by a process named condensation. What actually is done? Here we have to cool the gas to give you the liquid. So what happens to the particles? This is out of 2 marks. So we have to write 2 points. So the particles, what happened to the particles here? Cooling means the particles gain or lose energy. They lose energy. After they lose energy, they move slower. And the forces between them increases, and the particles move closer together. Whenever we have a question regarding change of a state of matter from one state to another, we have to mention what happens to the particles in terms of gaining or losing energy. What happens to the motion, the movement of the particles, the forces between the particles and the space between the particles. They come closer together or far apart. Next question. Gabriella makes a sound. She looks at the trace it makes on an oscilloscope. She makes 4 different sounds and looks at their traces. We have B, C, D, E. Complete the sentences. Choose from the following letters. The sound with a higher pitch than A. Higher pitch means what? In other words, we mean higher frequency. Higher frequency means a number of waves per unit time. Which one here has higher number of waves per unit time? Great, E. The sound with a larger volume أو louder, in other words يعني الامplitude is higher. Which one has higher amplitude than A? Let's look at A and check the other ones. Here it's actually B. The sound with a smaller frequency than A, smaller frequency means smaller number of waves. It's D here, smaller number of waves. The sound with a smaller amplitude than A is smaller amplitude than A. Where is the smaller amplitude than A, which means it has smaller amplitude? We find that C has smaller amplitude, but the answer is C. Next question. The drawing shows a mammal called the Philippine tarsier. Tarsiers live in rainforests, jumping from tree to tree. They rarely touch the ground. They sleep during the day and hunt for insects at night. Use the drawing to suggest 3 ways tarsiers are adapted to their habitat. Let's look at the picture and find out 3 ways. First, we have very clear wide eye. The eyes are wide eyes to be able to what? Here it's written that they sleep during the day and hunt at night. They need to gather maximum light. What about the fingers? They have long fingers here to be able to grasp the trees. What about the tail? Long tail used for the balance. The ears here, the ears are big ears or large ears to help them detect their prey by sensitive hearing. So the answer is, we can write wide eyes to gather maximum light, long fingers to grasp trees, long tail for balance. And if someone else mentions they have the big ears, you can write it for sensitive hearing. Philippine tarsiers are an endangered species. Tourists have to pay to photograph these tarsiers in special nature reserves. Suggest 2 ways this can help to increase the number of tarsiers in the wild. So the tourists have to pay to take a photograph. Okay, so they can use this money in what? Regarding increasing the number of the tarsiers. They can do what? They can maintain the natural reserves. They can use the money for a breeding program. They can improve the health of the tarsiers. They can increase the awareness. They can research into the causes of the decline in the number of tarsiers. We need only 2 ways, so we can write maintain, to maintain the nature reserve for a breeding program. They can improve the health of the tarsiers. Next question. Yuri investigates the reaction of metals with acids. He adds different metals to dilute hydrochloric acid. The diagram shows his results. We have here metals A, B, C, and D. Complete the column heading and table to show Yuri's results. Regarding the metals, it's written the title here, the metal. Here we have A0, B6. What's number 6? Number 6 actually here is the number of bubbles. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So this is the number of bubbles. For metal C, how many bubbles do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. We have 15. For D, we have 1, 2, and 3 only. Describe how Yuri could improve this method to find the volume of a gas produced. Tick the box next to the correct method. Here, Yuri wants to find the volume of the gas. What can he do? Collect the gas in a measuring cylinder, collect the gas in a test tube, repeat the experiment the same way, use a smaller piece of metal. Collect the gas in a measuring cylinder is correct. Collecting the gas in a test tube is not correct because you cannot find the volume. Repeating the experiment the same way, it's useless. Use a smaller piece of metal. You cannot find the volume by this method. Question C, Yuri repeats his experiment using more concentrated acid. Yuri makes this prediction: if I use more concentrated acid, I will get faster reaction. The diagram shows his results for his second experiment. So look at the second experiment results here. Compare it here to the first one. So here we have more bubbles, as we can see. Yep, his prediction is correct. Explain why there were more bubbles in the tubes. There were more bubbles in the tubes. Question number 6. There are many objects in space. Which object is a source of light? Circle the correct answer. Which one here is a source of light? Asteroid, Earth, Moon, planet, or the star? The star is the source of light. We said before we have the sun as the source of light together with the stars in space. Comets are not sources of light. Explain how can we see a comet even though it's not a source of light. How can we see a comet? How can we see the moon? What would be the answer? Where does the light come from? The light comes from the sun and is reflected off the comet. So the answer is the light from the sun is reflected off the comet. Question number 7. The dodo became extinct in the 17th century. The dodo was a flightless bird which lived on the island of Mauritius. The dodos built their nests on the ground. Dodos had never met humans before humans arrived on the island. The dodos were not afraid of the humans. Humans brought new animals to the island, such as cats, dogs, rats. The humans removed most of the forest where the dodos lived to build new homes and to create farmland. Write down 2 reasons why you think that the dodo became extinct. Here we have the answer inside this part of the question. The dodo was a flightless bird. Flightless means unable to fly. So we need 2 reasons why they became extinct. They weren't able to fly, so they couldn't escape the new animals. They might have been eaten. Their food might have been eaten. Their eggs might have been eaten. They were hunted by humans. They lost their habitat. They were not afraid of humans. It's mentioned here, so they were easy to catch. They were not able to fly to find a new habitat, for example. So the answer might be they were not afraid of humans so they were easy to catch. They lost their habitat. This could be the second reason. If someone else writes, the new animals ate their food or eggs, it's also considered correct. The new animals ate their food and eggs, because it's mentioned here they built their nests on the ground, so easy for the new animals to eat their food and eggs. Question number 8. When lithium is added to water, it forms lithium hydroxide and a gas. Complete the word equation for the reaction between lithium and water. So we have lithium, word equation, and water. Give me lithium hydroxide and a gas. What's the name of this gas? How could we know? Let's recall when we studied before the reaction of metals and water. If we have a metal like lithium plus water, water is H2O, but we will write it this way to show you the name of the gas formed. The lithium here takes the OH to form lithium hydroxide, giving off the hydrogen gas. So the gas is hydrogen. And here it's not balanced, so 2 here and 2 here. Okay, the chemical symbol for lithium is Li. The formula for water is H2O. The formula for lithium hydroxide is LiOH. Which of these substances is an element? Lithium or water or lithium hydroxide? The only element here is lithium. Why lithium is the only element here? Because it's made up of only one type of atom. So choose from them. We have here lithium. Now explain your answer. Why did you say lithium? Because lithium is made up of only one type of atom. Question C. Lithium is in group 1 of the periodic table. The diagram shows some of the elements in group 1 of the periodic table. So these are some elements from group 1. This is group 1. Describe how the reactivity of group 1 metals changes as you go down the group. As you go down the group, what happens to the reactivity? As we go down the group, the reactivity increases. Okay, so it increases. In other words, it becomes more active. Blessy investigates conduction of thermal heat energy. She heats a metal rod. The metal rod has a pin attached with wax. When the end of the metal rod is hot, the wax melts and the pin falls. Blessy must think about the safety hazards of this investigation. Describe 2 of these safety hazards. What might be the safety hazards here? She is at a risk of what? Heat, so risk of getting burnt. Number 2, here we have a pin with sharp edge, so there is a risk of getting skin wound. So 2 safety hazards are, number 1, risk of getting burnt. Number 2, risk of getting skin wound. Question number 10. Diagram A shows the flower of a fly orchid. Diagram B shows a fly orchid flower being visited by insects. The flowers of this orchid release chemicals which smell like a female fly, suggest two reasons why the male flies travel great distances to visit these flowers. These flies, they travel to visit the flowers because the flowers have what? They have smell or scent that attracts them. Also, the flowers look like the female fly. They are looking for a mate. The insects are looking for a mate. So the answer could be two reasons. They are attracted by the smell. Attracted by the smell. Or if you write the scent, it's correct. Because it's written here that the smell is like a female fly. So they think it's a female fly. They are looking for a mate. They are looking for a mate. We can also write that the flowers, they look like the female flies. And the flowers look like female flies. The orchid is pollinated by insects. What's meant by the term pollination? We have here 2 marks. What's the definition of pollination? Pollination is the first keyword, transfer. Transfer of what? Transfer of pollen grains from the anther to the stigma of a flower. يبقى the pollination is the transfer. We should write this word. Transfer of what? Transfer of pollen grains from the anther to the stigma of a flower. This is pollination. Question number 11. The diagram shows the structure of a boron atom. Name particles Y and Z. Particle Y, particle Z. This is an atom. The atom has protons, neutrons, electrons. Protons, neutrons are inside the nucleus. The electrons are orbiting in the energy levels. How many electrons do we have here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The number of electrons is equal to 5. So the number of protons, we know that the number of protons equal number of electrons, so 5. So which one here has 5? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So these particles Z, are the protons, while particle Y are the neutrons. Rajiv puts a piece of wood on a pivot. He adds weights at different distances from the pivot. The wood balances. Calculate the weight labeled A in the diagram. This question actually comes frequently. It came in April 2019, paper 1 as well. So when we have a pivot, so this problem is about the moment. And we have a keyword here, the wood balances. So balanced means that the moment on both sides are equal. يعني M1 equal M2. The moment is equal to what? Force times distance. Force times distance. F1 D1, F2 D2. What's force 1 here? Force 1 here is 4 Newton. D1 here is 3 Newton. F2 is unknown, A, the one we need to know. D2, the distance is 2. 4 times 3 equal 12, equal A times 2. So A is equal to 12 divided by 2 equal to 6 Newton. So the weight of A is 6 Newton. So whenever we have a pivot and we have balance, we have the value of the moment. So we can find the force by applying the formula that F1 D1 is equal to F2D2, and finally we get the weight of A. Next question. Plants are able to use light energy to make their own food. Name one substance that plants use to make their own food by this process. So we need the name of one substance needed for the process. We know the process, it's photosynthesis. So we need one substance only. We can write carbon dioxide. It's correct. If someone else writes, for example, water, it's also correct. If someone writes chlorophyll, it's correct. But if you write chloroplast, it's not correct. Why? Because chloroplast is the part of the plant and not the substance. The substance is the chlorophyll. Tick the 3 correct properties of magnets. We need to tick 3 properties. Like poles of magnets repel. Like poles repel, true. If we have North Pole and North Pole, for example, they repel. South and South, they repel. Magnets always have N and S written? No, not always. Magnets do not work if they are in water? Wrong. They work when they are in water. Magnets attract iron, cobalt, and nickel? Correct. The force of attraction is greater at the poles than in the middle of the magnet. True. So these are the 3 correct statements. Planets orbit the sun. Write down the names of planets A, B, and C. Here we have the sun. We have 4 inner planets and 4 outer planets. Let's review together the names of the planets. We have Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune. So planet A is what? Jupiter. B is Uranus. And C is Neptune. Question 16. Priya connects an electrical circuit. We can see a circuit here. What type of circuit is shown in the diagram? Once we look at the diagram here, we can say that it's what? It's a parallel circuit. Let's look at the choices with parallel circuits. So parallel circuit with closed switch, it's correct because the switch here is closed. The parallel with open switch, لا. Series circuit, لا. Parallel series, لا. Series, لا. This is the only correct answer. Priya wants to measure the current in the circuit. The name of the meter used. We know the name of the meter used. A, to measure the current, the meter. Meter. The last question for this exam is question 17. Jamila is a skier. Here are the time and distance measurements for 3 of Jamila's journeys. We have journey A, B, C. We have the time in seconds. We have the distance in meters. Journey B has the greatest average speed. How do we know that? Explain why. It's mentioned that journey B has the greatest average speed. Let's find the average speed of the 3 journeys. For example, for journey A, we have the speed equals to the distance over time. So what's the distance? 40. The time 30. So it is 1.33 meter per second. For journey B, the speed equal distance over time. What's the speed? The distance here? 120 over 60 equal to 2 meter per second. The journey C, distance over time. What's the distance? 30 over 60 equals 0.5 meter per second. So if we look at the results, we will find that journey B if we look at the results, we'll find that journey B has the highest value here, which means it has the greatest average speed, because journey A and C have less average speeds. By this, we are done with this exam. I hope you understood all the questions. Thank you so much.